leaving Abu Dhabi, perhaps for the very last time. I'm going out to the power plant for 3 weeks. Alrighty, so you see the Baraka nuclear power plant, and inshallah I won't lay eyes on that again for a long time, and perhaps my days of working at the nuclear plant are over. I don't see a lot of changes on the plant status. The boron concentration, I think, is the same as where it was yesterday. Oh, good heavens. Okay, well, thanks, Tim. Yeah, and you can see the next 24 hours, the activities they have planning. And so I'm in an apartment here in the Abu Dhabi city. That's the pile of stuff I'll be giving away because there's a lot of people who could use decent clothes, and I've got a pair of work shoes in the yellow bag. I'm only traveling with the 2 black ones. You know, just for a note, you see, probably hard to see, that's Barry Perrin's Adventures of an Old Sea Dog. It started like this, came out looking like that. See? This is from the floor of the Marouge Hotel apartment building. Yeah. Mystery. So I've changed hotels, I think 3 or 4 times now. This is the 4th hotel in my 1 month in Abu Dhabi, and this one's okay. You know, it's just like me. It's like a 2nd ring hotel. I mean, that's fine. When I leave, I'm going to get to the boat, and I'm going to be in self-isolation as soon as I get to the boat, and that's fine, because there's a lot of work I can do on the boat. And the question really is, when you have more work to do than you can possibly do before the weather turns bad, you have to choose which work to do. In some cases, you can solve your problem with money, right? You can take money and give it to somebody, and they'll do certain work for you to make it go more quickly. And I'm going to do some of that. So this video, we're going to talk about the focus areas that I'm going to have for the next 2 months up on the boat. So. Yep, and there's a lot of work to do on the boat. You can see the priorities here. The excuse me, the boat's got to float, right? I've got to close up the 2 holes that I have in the boat. I've got to install a new hole for the depth sounder, and then install the depth sounder, and I've got to get the bilge pump sorted. So that's got to get done. And the next thing really is propulsion. You know, I've got main propulsion, which is a diesel in this boat. It's a power boat by design, and it's the normal diesel stuff that I got to do. You know, but we're a sailboat too, and in a sailboat, you got to have the mast up. The sails have got to be on. I've got to be able to work them. The rigging has to be sound so the mast doesn't just fall over on me. And there's a lot of accoutrements up on the masts. No, the bottom pane itself, I intend to hire that job out to a great group from Highland Blast. They do fabulous work. When the bottom pane is on, I'll install the anodes, and we'll do a video on how anodes work in general. Bow thruster is it either works or it doesn't. I just haven't tested yet. And the remaining work is going to be worked sort of as fill-in work whenever I can. You know, testing the windlasses, it's got to get done, but really, you know, the water and the gray water, I've got to be able to drink the water, and I've got to be able to use a shower at some point. Almost every boat is going to have a means of removing water from the cockpit, and you know, some boats are open to the sea, so the water just pours out like it's a waterfall. My boat's not that way. You know, my boat has a couple of cockpit drains, you know, that are in the corners, in the forward corner of the boat, and they roughly go like this. It goes kind of down. Now, if I drew a longitudinal view of the boat, the boat was like this. The cockpit was here, and the drains went like that, okay? And so I have videos of that. I'll show you a picture here. Yeah, so this is the way it used to look. That's the goes out portion. At the back end, there's one on, that was the starboard side. This is port side. The goes out used to be, and the pipe was underneath the fantail. So the point is, oh, good heavens. Yeah, so the point is, there's a lot of ways you can do cockpit drains, okay? That's what I want to talk about first. And what you see here is what I've had on other boats before, even production boats. In my old Beachcomber, it was built the same way. We had no valving. It was just a funnel straight down, straight out of the boat. And we use the fact that the height above water, as long as there's a distance, here to here, there's going to be a height above water, and that's going to ensure that the water just drains down naturally, by gravity. And it's really very, very foolproof in a way, as long as these don't get clogged, and you got no trouble. Yeah, but so what could happen? Yeah, so what could happen, though, is you could have a failure here, and water could, enter the boat and flood your boat. If you had a leak, if one of these pipes were to break off, you would flood your boat, via the cockpit drains. So the very device intended to drain the water out of the boat is actually going to admit water in. So ideally, we would have some valving, okay? We would have some sort of valve that would, be like a Ccock that we could put down here, an overboard discharge valve. So what we're talking about today is how do I install these valves onto the hull? Now, I'm not going to go into the old story of how I got. Well, you remember how it used to look? And this is what it looks like now. That pipe on the inside is completely gone. And we drilled 2 holes in the bottom of the boat, one on each side, that look like this. Those are just temporary hoses. It was very difficult to operate, and the valves really could not be used. And the previous owner had to keep the valves shut all the time, or he'd ship water in. So on my boat, the distance between height of waterline versus height of cockpit floor, the sole, that is only about 15 centimeters. Not that great, okay? Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is a close-up of, what are we going to do with this install? Okay, so this is meant to represent the hull itself, okay? And what we're going to do is we have to drill a hole, okay? So I've already done that. I've drilled 2 52-inch holes. Correction, 2 51-millimeter holes. Well, one thing you see is that I have bought myself an iPad, and I bought the program Procreate. So that's me using it to sketch what I want to talk about, because using a whiteboard and doing the other Apple programs just weren't working for me. So I do appreciate the patience of people for bearing with me. The quality is not so hot. Theoretically, I can do animations, but again, not so hot at this point. Okay, so this is more or less what a Ccock valve looks like. In the center, there's a ball valve, and it can be rotated so that the passageway in the center of the valve is aligned to pass water through or to not pass water through, okay? So open, close, and it's really very straightforward. So on the other end of this, you've got another device, which in the UK we call a skin fitting. It's also threaded to match these threads, right? And you have this is why Procreate kicks my ass sometimes. Yeah, so basically there's a hole down the center of that. So what we need to do is screw the skin fitting from the outside of the boat into the valve body, and you basically pinch it up against the boat. And in many boats, that's all people do. They just rely on the strength of these threads to hold the thing together, okay? And put tons of caulk, adhesive here. Some people put it on the threads, but that's not a good idea because you'll never get it off. And you put more adhesive here, okay? And then you bring them together, okay? And you bring this one down and this one up, and that's how you do it, okay? On the fiberglass boat, They essentially have the same fitting, only it's made of bronze, usually. It could be plastic, I suppose. And you got the valve body here, and you got the skin fitting that goes in the same way as it's going to go on mine. We do worry about this flexing, because the base flange of the valve is, of course, perfectly flat. It's not going to make up against the curved hull perfectly. Now, of course, that curve is greatly exaggerated. If this was a curvature of the hull, I mean, our boat would be a circle about 2 feet wide, right? So it's an exaggeration, we know that. But what most people do on fiberglass boats is they make something called a backing block. Now, this is made of fiberglass or plywood. They make fiberglass, pre-made backing blocks. But either way, you can take plywood, wrap it up in fiberglass resin and a fiberglass cloth, and you bore the hole down the center, and you just epoxy the hell out of it. And the adhesion between the hull and all this fiberglass, that's what's going to hold this backing block in place. And then it's really pretty simple. All you have to do is take some stainless steel screws and actually screw the valve to the backing block so that the valve remains attached firmly to the hull. This valve body and this skin fitting, they're both made of plastic, a very, very high-end plastic that's designed for under the waterline. Here's the product that I'm using. I'll show you here. It's a Marilon valve. So pretty cool from Force Bar. You know, Force Bar. It's got very good reviews. It's rated for below the waterline. And I've chosen to use the Force Bar valve because my hull is made of carbon steel, and I did not want to put a bronze valve up against carbon steel because you can get galvanic cells put together, and you can end up chewing away the least noble, least or most, well, whichever. You know, one of the metals is always going to have a lower galvanic constant than the other, and you're going to set up a galvanic cell. All right, so this is the Marilon Ccock valve, and on the discharge side, you've got a 1.5 inch hose fitting, so I'll get 2 hose clamps onto that. And this is the flange side. It's not the same as what's in the drawing. The drawing shows a model with a triangular base plate, but base plate's a base plate, and these are going to be the mounting holes that I'll use. Although it is going to be kind of tight because there's not a lot of room up against the body itself, so I haven't quite sorted that yet, but I'm a smart guy, I'll make a plan for that. Some people who are the subscribers may not even know what a ball valve is, okay? So when a ball valve, the handle is generally in the 90-degree position. That typically means the valve is off and it's not flowing water. So it's difficult to see, I know, but there's a shiny black ball down the center of that pipe. But when I open the valve, so you can see that it now passes flow, see? You can see right through the valve now. You know, that's full open right there. So ball valves, they call them 90-degree valves, but it's more accurate to call this a ball valve because 90-degree valves could be, you know, butterfly valves as well, which we're not going to talk about. On steel boats, one other way you might see a hull fitting installed, and we're not as worried about the curvature of the hull this time. Let's suppose you got a general purpose fitting that you need to install some kind of dealing on. So what you could do, and I've seen done, you know, some people will weld a carbon steel pipe, essentially. And I'm just going to draw it like that, okay, with a threaded fitting at the end. And they just weld this baby right here on the inside of the boat. And then from that, they can attach any old threaded fitting. They can install, you know, a threaded valve right here, right? And that's what some people do. My boat, I don't have any hull fittings like that. So let's talk hull penetrations. The first hull penetration that I want to talk about, this is looking at this port side, is a 2-inch hole, and there's one on both sides of the boat for the cockpit drains. There's also a hole forward on the starboard side in the galley, right about here. It's about a 1-inch hole, and that is for the gray water discharge. There's also 2 other holes here, one higher, one lower on the back of the boat. The top hole is a bilge pump discharge, the automatic bilge pump discharge. That's where the hose is run. The bilge pump is about here, and the discharge hose runs all the way to this area. It runs under the fantail. This hole is for the drain for the propane locker. The propane locker is just a box which is essentially mounted here, and it's got the propane bottles in it, and it has a drain. In case water gets in, it just drains right out the back of the boat. So that's okay. That one on top is a bilge pump overboard. That is a propane locker direct drain overboard, which is on the port side. That's all we have. So on the starboard side, we have the same cockpit drain hole that we have on the port side. We also have the engine exhaust pipe, which is above water. Also, and above the water line, of course, is the drain or the discharge right about here for the Eberspacher cabin heater. Some of you may ask, why do I not have seawater intake valves? And I don't. Many boats have an intake for seawater to go cool the engine, but I don't need that. So I'm going to sketch in what I do have. So under the floor of the cabin, right about here is my engine, okay? And as we know, engines have hot water in that comes out of them, and so they have water comes out. But in my boat, it goes through the hull inside a double wall pipe. It wraps around the keel on the starboard side and goes back to about here and comes back in the boat on the port side and goes back into the engine. So the benefit of this type of cooling system is that I have zero salt water entering the boat. So that's a big plus. And I think that it does make me feel really good. We did a very good UT inspection of these penetrations when I bought the boat. It's well over 5 millimeters thick, so I think we're in pretty good shape there, and I don't have to have any anodes in the engine. I don't need to worry about raw water pumps and heat exchangers. This is the heat exchanger. It's a keel cooling system. Well, that's a look at the Ccock and Cockpit drains that I've got installed. I also have to drill one more 2-inch hole in the boat for the depth sounder. But since the boat is out of the water, it's also a great time to drill another hole, also going to be 51 millimeters, and that's where the depth sounder transducer is going to go. Somewhere forward of the boat, I bought a depth sounder that is theoretically a look-forward transducer, so we'll see how that works. And this is my first ever Procreate animation. Alright, so the depth sounder I expect to be pretty easy. And bilge pumps is the next priority job. Yeah, so the bilges on this boat are the most embarrassing thing I've got condition-wise. It's just not pretty, hard to clean, a lot of rust down there. Basically, the bilge is a rectangular prismatic shape. And we've got, an electric pump that doesn't work. A bilge pump mounted right about here, which is a submersible type bilge pump, which is the kind you can buy off the shelf in almost any West Marine. Yeah, so remember that the electric pump doesn't work at all. I'm a little nervous about how much water I'm going to find in the bilge when I get here. And I've still got to install a proper manual/emergency pump. But first, it is time to leave Abu Dhabi. Safety vest. Hard hat with a chin strap. So there's plane tickets to buy, COVID test, immigration, and we say goodbye to our friends. And some are better looking than others.
If you say out of stuff,
if you just say khalas, finish.
Yeah, khalas. I have to say like
this. Finish, right? Old, fat, bald, white guy. Alright, so thanks for watching the video, guys. I appreciate it. I look forward to any comments that you may have. I'm looking forward to getting up to Scotland and getting to work on the boat, that's for sure. I am going to miss Abu Dhabi. I've got a lot of friends here, some great people. I hadn't been there for 7 months. It could be flooded for all I know. It could be on fire. I don't know. So we'll just... nothing that's, no Herculean stuff here, just good, honest work. And so I once heard it said that a change is as good as a rest. And I think that's true for me. I'm looking forward to something different. I know I won't be resting in a physical sense. It's going to be cold showers. It's going to be bad foods. It's going to be lack of exercise the next few weeks. But I'm looking forward to something different. I've been here for 3.5 years in the city. I see I've got a few guys playing some cricket practice behind me. And I'm going to miss this place. But I'm also looking forward to the next challenge. So I hope you continue watching the videos. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.